welcome back to Doge Master Complains about Fall Guys Vaulted Maps Season 3 and January 2023 edition. There's 45 Fall Guys maps that aren't in solos, also 43 missing from squad/duos. I'm gonna list all those maps in a minute, but first, why? Well, some rounds get removed when they're bugged and whatever, but seeing as these have all been vaulted since the season started, even after 2 bug fix updates, most of them are certainly vaulted for another reason. Especially since recently every map accidentally got unvaulted for an hour or two and worked fine, but more on that later. The official explanation is basically Mediatonic went through our feedback about everything, they had to make changes, whatever, they're working on better QA testing tools, cool. But basically what they're saying is with their current testing tools they can't reasonably test all of the maps in the game, and as they add more this will only get worse. And while this sucks, it does make sense, but still some issues or unanswered questions. Why are recent rounds, even just ones added last season, already getting vaulted? For example, just from the previous 2 seasons we have Bounce Party, Cosmic Highway, Frantic Factory, Space Race, Speed Circuit, Star Chart, Tiptoe Finale, and Treat Thieves all vaulted. You could maybe argue for Treat Thieves, but the rest, come on, this is just dumb. They do this, but then basic rounds that have been spammed in the game for over 2 years, such as Hexagon and DoorDash, just won't ever get removed. Why? There's also plenty more issues with vaulted maps, some of which didn't really apply last season. But alright, you get the point, you probably want full lists now, so let's go over solo show first. Please do watch the full video though, I know that's quite a generic thing to say, but I assure you there's a lot of info you'll want to know. Right, vaulted from solos: Big Shots, Bounce Party, Bubble Trouble, Button Bashers, Cosmic Highway, Fall Mountain, Frantic Factory, Freezy Peak, Full Tilt, Gate Crash, Hoopsie Legend, Night Fever, Lost Temple, Penguin Pool Party, Perfect Match, Roll On, Roll Out, Royal Fumble, Seesaw, Short Circuit, Ski Fall, Snowball Survival, Space Race, Speed Circuit, Star Chart, Sunfruit, The Slime Scraper, Thin Ice, Tiptoe. Not in solos in the first place is Basketfall, Egg Scramble, Egg Siege, 4 Ball Hoarders, Hoopsie Daisy, Jinxed, Penguin Pursuit, Pixel Painters, Power Trip, Rock and Roll, Snowy Scrap, Sweet Thieves, Team Tail Tag, Tiptoe Finale, Treat Thieves. Little bit excessive, don't you think? Again, I understand the reasoning they gave, but it still sucks, and especially that they opt for vaulting fairly new maps rather than ones that dedicated players have already seen probably thousands of times at this point. Squads and duos vaulted maps will follow soon, but I have some more ranting to do first. Another thing is when they had vaulted maps last season, most of those didn't return. This would be much better if they rotated the rounds often. Maybe like a couple times a month, just once per update, hell at least once every season, but nope, several of the rounds, Hoopsie Legend, Speed Circuit and Thin Ice are my main examples, but there's many more. Those maps were vaulted at the start of Season 2, back in September. Why can't we at least have those back? Wouldn't be as big of a deal if the vault rotated often, but seeing as we're 9.5 weeks into the season now with no changes at the time of uploading, that's clearly not happening, is it? I'll make an updated video if anything does change, but for now this is what we've got. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments as we move on to the squads and duos vaulted maps. Vaulted from squads and duos: Airtime, Basketfall, Big Shots, Bubble Trouble, Cosmic Highway, Egg Scramble, Egg Siege, Fall Mountain, Frantic Factory, Freezy Peak, Full Tilt, Gate Crash, Hoarders, Hoopsie Legends, Night Fever, Lost Temple, Penguin Pool Party, Perfect Match, Power Trip, Rock and Roll, Roll On, Roll Out, Royal Fumble, Seesaw, Ski Fall, Snowball Survival, Snowy Scrap, Space Race, Star Chart, Sunfruit, The Slime Scraper, Thin Ice, Tiptoe, and Tiptoe Finale. Never being in the first place are Bounce Party, Button Bashers, Hoverboard Heroes, Leading Light, Short Circuit, Speed Circuit, Sweet Thieves, Tail Tag, and Treat Thieves. So we're all in agreement this sucks, right? And it's actually worse in some ways than last season. There are some good things, a lot less maps are bugged this season, so that's not the primary reason for removals. And these round pools are seemingly at least a bit better, though they're still bad. And a pretty important thing, all variations are back. We're not locked to just Season 2 variants with Hexed House spammed everywhere and whatnot. There's much more variety there. But a bad thing, Season 2 variants are gone. So yep, not only are recent maps getting removed, but also all those variants just aren't in. And some other random variants are also missing as they were removed due to bugs but just never added back after getting fixed. So while this is kind of an improvement, it also brings some other issues. But another huge issue, last season with vaulted maps they'd still appear in limited time shows and in custom lobbies, but this season none of that. If a show has a vaulted map, the show will either have that map removed or just not have the show come back and have the show removed from customs. though I don't understand the harm of having them in customs. Like, if any bugs are reported from customs, they can just remove the show, no big deal, but if there's nothing getting reported, then they can safely leave that stuff up, right? Also, apologies if this video is a bit incoherent, I'm just trying to give all this info while also sharing my own thoughts and ranting a little, but not being too angry. So let's quickly talk about the time that every map got unvaulted this season, January 19th, 2023. It seemed to be caused by an internet outage. You could still play Fall Guys like normal, but when loading into a show, you had a good chance to enter this really glitched show, which had last season's variations and stuff, but more importantly, so many vaulted rounds. Thin Ice, Star Chart, Lost Temple, Space Race, and many more were all spotted, and yes, even Skiffle with dive sliding enabled. It looked awesome. I unfortunately didn't get to play any of it, and I'm really sad about that, but this seriously outraged the community. Of course, this was an accident, but everyone loved having these vaulted maps back, and some people thought it happened on purpose. But no matter what side of that you were on, after this got fixed just an hour or two later, the community kinda got set on fire, to say the least. Just a little. Hashtag unvault Fall Guys was trending on Twitter, similar to hashtag save Fall Guys from a few months ago, if you remember that. So I recommend using both those hashtags if you're going to spread the word on social media, and share your opinions. However, we'll talk more about that near the end of the video. And also, don't use those hashtags in the comments section, because for some reason YouTube holds them for review, so I have to manually approve them. Don't use hashtags in there, but everywhere except YouTube, I guess. Or in your own YouTube videos, you can use them in the title and description, that also helps. But a summary is that obviously we've all been frustrated at the vaulted map situation in the first place, but after this issue happened, people getting to play those maps again and having a ton of fun, having a great time and all that, then having them stripped away, that's just really infuriating to experience. But most infuriating of all is that these maps seem to work completely fine. I genuinely heard of 0 issues with the vaulted maps that were played during this bug thing. Dive sliding worked completely fine on Skiffle and Thin Ice, Nintendo Switch performance and issues didn't seem to exist on Space Race, crown grab finals such as Lost Temple functioned without any issue, and while bugs aren't necessarily the reason these are vaulted, as we've discussed previously, it's more about being able to test every existing round. It's still so frustrating from any perspective to see that these levels are working completely fine, and yet they're just locked away from all of us, all because they haven't been tested enough by Mediatonic or Epic. Our favourite levels are just sat there wasting space on our consoles or hard drives. Well, that leaves 37 maps vaulted, or 39 including Invisibeans. Sweet Thieves was initially in this season, with the show running once or twice. However, as of a few weeks ago, that show and round is seemingly vaulted. It's still in customs though, so can we all agree to keep that a secret so it doesn't get taken out of there? So 39 vaulted maps that you'll be unable to play until they change. Basketball, Big Shots, Bounce Party, Bubble Trouble, Button Bashers, Cosmic Highway, Egg Scramble, Egg Siege, Full Mountain, Frantic Factory, Freezy Peak, Full Tilt, Gate Crash, Hoarders, Hoopsie Legends, Night Fever, Lost Temple, Penguin Pool Party, Perfect Match, Power Trip, Rock and Roll, Roll On, Roll Out, Royal Fumble, Seesaw, Short Circuit, Skiffle, Snowball Survival, Snowy Scrap, Space Race, Speed Circuit, Star Chart,
Sweet Thieves,
the Sun Fruit, the Slime Scraper, Thin Ice, Tiptoe, and Tiptoe Finale, and Treat Thieves. We can just hope for change here. Share your opinions in the comments, and also to Mediatonic. Of course, don't harass anyone, don't spam or anything, but make sure you get heard with your honest opinions, that's all. If you have a specific complaint about custom shows with these vaulted maps, or certain maps missing for far too long, or anything of that sort, spreading that around social media can help. If we all stayed quiet last season, then we would have never gotten that Twitter thread explaining what the hell is going on. So yeah, this is still a big issue, but at least some things are better and we got some communication. But with the custom situation, something that will definitely get overlooked, Solo Show is now the only show in customs that supports 60 players. All the others are far less, and the bug allowing you to overload lobbies and get round 1 finals is also fixed. So I'll still do some custom streams, but right now don't expect too many. It's hard to make a fun stream with either just one show or having to exclude a lot of viewers from joining. Once again, thoughts in the comments please. Click here if you're curious about my lack of uploads or here for more Fall Guys content. Okay, bye.